Imagine being known worldwide, not for your talent or your ideas, but for your crimes. Such was the life of Ronnie Biggs. Ronnie Biggs, a name synonymous with mischief and lawlessness, etched his name into the annals of criminal history. His audacious exploits and escape from justice have fascinated and appalled in equal measure. A character shrouded in controversy, Biggs was no ordinary man. But what shaped this notorious figure? Now, it's time to delve into the life of this infamous figure and see what led him down his path. Every story starts at the beginning, and Biggs's is no exception. Born in the heart of Lambeth, London, in the year 1929, Ronnie Biggs's life was a series of unexpected twists and turns. His early years were marked by the struggle and resilience that defined the era. He was a product of working-class England, his family etching out a modest existence amidst the hustle and bustle of the city. As a youngster, Biggs was no stranger to mischief. The streets of Lambeth became his playground, a place where he learned the tricks of the trade that would later play a significant role in his life. His initial brushes with crime were minor, almost juvenile, but they hinted at a man who was unafraid to cross the line. His adolescence was a tumultuous time filled with petty crime and short stints in prison. It was during these formative years that Biggs began to understand the allure of the criminal underworld, a realm that promised quick cash and an escape from the mundane. As he navigated the labyrinth of London's underbelly, Biggs was unknowingly laying the groundwork for a life that would capture the public's imagination and etch his name into the annals of crime history. The seeds of rebellion were sown, and a life of infamy was on the horizon. But it was in 1963 that Biggs would commit the crime that would make him infamous. In the early hours of August 8, 1963, a train carrying millions of pounds was brought to a halt. This wasn't a random act of violence or a desperate attempt at theft. This was a meticulously planned and executed operation, what we now know as the Great Train Robbery. And at the heart of it all was the infamous Ronnie Biggs. Biggs wasn't the mastermind behind the operation, but he played a crucial role nonetheless. His job was to ensure that the driver of the train, a man named Jack Mills, was unable to interfere with the robbery. It was a role Biggs fulfilled to perfection, securing the gang's access to the train and its precious cargo. The plan was audacious. The gang knew that the train was carrying large quantities of used banknotes, destined for destruction. They also knew that the train had no armed guards. With these facts in hand, they set their plan into motion. The gang tampered with the railway signals, bringing the train to a halt at a remote location known as Sears Crossing. As the confused driver and fireman tried to understand what was happening, the gang moved in, overpowering them and securing control of the train. With the train under their control, they moved it a mile further down the track, to Bridego Bridge. There, with the help of an ex-railway worker, they unloaded 120 bags of money, weighing a total of 2.5 tons. The total haul? An astounding £2.6 million. But the success of this audacious robbery was not to last. The gang had left behind a trail of evidence at the scene of the crime and their hideout, clues that would soon lead the police right to their doorsteps. But the success of the robbery was short-lived, and soon the law was closing in. Escaping from prison, Biggs began a life on the run that would span decades. A life of constant looking over the shoulder, of moving shadows and whispers in the wind. In the dead of night, in July 1965, Biggs made his daring escape from Wandsworth Prison, using a homemade rope ladder and dropping down a furniture van. The audacity of the escape rivaled his infamous train heist, and just like that, Ronnie Biggs was a free man. But freedom, as he would soon discover, is a relative term. He didn't stay in England long. With the authorities hot on his heels, Biggs fled to Paris, where he underwent plastic surgery to change his appearance. But even as he looked in the mirror at a stranger's face, he knew he was still Ronnie Biggs, the man who stole from the Royal Mail train. From Paris, Biggs took a winding route to Australia, and then to Panama, before finally settling in Brazil. The South American country, with its samba beats and sun-soaked beaches, was a far cry from the gray skies of London. It was here that Biggs lived the majority of his life on the run, a fugitive in paradise. But even in the land of carnival and capoeira, Biggs couldn't escape his past. His face, though altered, was still recognizable to those who knew what to look for. And his name, etched in the annals of British criminal history, was a beacon for those seeking justice, or vengeance. Biggs lived a life of contradictions, a fugitive, yet a public figure. a man who loved his freedom, yet was forever imprisoned by his past. He was a symbol of rebellion, a folk hero to some, and a notorious criminal to others. He lived in the open, yet was always hiding. He was a man on the run, a man without a country, and in the end he would find that no matter how far you run, you can never truly escape yourself. But even in Brazil, Biggs was never truly free from his past. In 2001, after nearly 40 years on the run, Biggs made the decision to return to Britain. It was an unexpected move, one that would shock the world and close a chapter in one of the most notorious stories of the 20th century. Biggs's return to Britain was far from a triumphant homecoming. Immediately upon his arrival, he was rearrested, a stark reminder of the crimes he had committed and the justice he had evaded for so long. The Great Train Robbery, as audacious and infamous as it was, had left a trail of victims in its wake. Biggs was now to face the consequences. In the ensuing trial, the evidence against Biggs was overwhelming. The lingering memories of the robbery, the detailed investigations, and Biggs's own admissions all pointed towards a guilty verdict. And so it was. Biggs was sentenced to prison, a fate he had managed to avoid for nearly 4 decades. But prison life for Biggs was a far cry from his days on the lam. He was no longer a young, audacious robber evading the law across continents. He was now an old man, in failing health, living out his days in a place he had spent most of his life trying to avoid. Each passing year in prison took a toll on Biggs. His health deteriorated rapidly, and it was clear that his days were numbered. The man who had once been a symbol of audacity and rebellion was now a frail figure, a stark reminder of the consequences of a life on the run. In 2009, after 8 long years in prison, a decision was made. Biggs was to be released on compassionate grounds. His health was failing, and it was deemed that he posed no threat to society. It was a quiet end to a loud and notorious life. In 2009, Biggs was released from prison on compassionate grounds due to his failing health. Biggs passed away in 2013, but his legacy continues to intrigue and fascinate. The phenomenon of Ronnie Biggs, a man who lived a life of notoriety and escapade, is one that has been etched into the annals of criminal history. His audacious exploits, daring escapes, and flamboyant lifestyle have captured the imagination of the public for decades. Biggs's story has been the subject of countless books, movies, and documentaries, each offering their own perspective on this enigmatic figure. His portrayal in media has varied considerably, from the ruthless criminal mastermind to the charming rogue. Such is the complexity of his character that he has been both vilified and romanticized, often in equal measure. The public's fascination with Biggs is not merely about his involvement in the Great Train Robbery or his subsequent life on the run. It's about the audacity of his actions, the defiance of his spirit, and the allure of his rebellious persona. His story is a testament to the enduring appeal of the outlaw, the renegade who refuses to bow to authority. Yet amidst the intrigue and fascination, there remains an ongoing debate about Biggs's crimes. His actions have been condemned by many as reckless and harmful, leading to the suffering of innocent people. Others, however, see him as a symbol of rebellion, a man who dared to challenge the system and live life on his own terms. The legacy of Ronnie Biggs is a complex tapestry of thrill, defiance, and controversy. His life has been a roller coaster ride of highs and lows, a journey marked by crime, adventure, and an unyielding spirit. He remains a figure of intrigue, a symbol of rebellion, and a subject of endless debate. Whether you view him as a criminal or an anti-hero, there's no denying that Ronnie Biggs made a lasting impact on history,